You want to get drafted and play professional baseball, but you don't know how, so I'm going to lay it out as simply as possible. Just follow along. This is for you if you are passionate about pitching, you have a high work ethic, you want to play professionally, and you know that there are training methods that can get you better, but you don't know how to implement them and you don't know who to get them from. You're in luck because today I'm going to show you the how, and obviously I am the who. If you are sick of watching pitchers with less work ethic than you outperform you on the field, you have a long-term growth mindset, and you're looking to set yourself up for future success, you're willing to change your lifestyle and your training to get to your goals, and you want to make those changes now, stick around. This video is going to be very helpful for you. But if you're not serious about your pitching development, if you think because you haven't done it before or figured it out that it's not possible, or you think that you're physically not able to become a pro, or you have a fixed mindset and you're unwilling to adapt, you're looking for a quick fix, you're afraid to stick to a program for multiple months, you don't believe in yourself, and you're not ready to make a change from how you train and how you think, this video is not for you if any of those apply to you. So you're probably thinking, who is this guy? Why can I trust him? My pitching journey started when I was 19 years old. I had always been a catcher growing up, all the way from Little League up to high school. I was the backup catcher for my high school, and I was quickly transitioned into becoming a pitcher only when I got to junior college. And so I had to learn how to pitch at a high level in a college environment by myself very quickly. And long story short, I did a lot of things right, but I did way more wrong. In my college career, I had a lot of failures. I had an ERA above 10 for my freshman year. My sophomore year, I tore my labrum. I went through a full rehab process to try and get myself back to the velocity range I was at previously, just to tear my UCL right afterwards, and basically miss multiple years in a row of my college career in what was my prime and have to deal with that. And unfortunately for me, it took me through all that failure to finally learn how to take care of myself, how to be a better pitcher, and how to actually go about my development. And so when that happened, after my second arm surgery, because it took me that long to figure it out, I adopted a completely new throwing program. I changed my weightlifting routine. I adjusted my diet majorly, and I learned how to actually recover in between my training sessions. And through all that, I gained 40 pounds of muscle and 7 miles per hour to my fastball in just over a year. And I went from a guy who was a backup catcher in high school, a middle relief, low leverage guy in junior college, into becoming the closer at my 4-year school. I started getting attention from professional scouts, throwing in the low 90s up to 94. I transferred to LSU Shreveport, got my master's degree there. We were the number 2 ranked team in the country, and I was the closer for that team as well. I went through a really good last 2 years of my college career and actually had some professional opportunities waiting for me after I graduated. But that's when I decided to retire and move on from playing and get into what I do now, which is coaching. And so I actually started out my coaching journey coaching T-ball and giving youth lessons to random 12-year-olds at my local facility. And so from that is where I learned that I love coaching. I'm all about it, and I want to coach at a higher level. And so I got the pitching coach job at Yakima Valley College, which is a junior college up in the middle of nowhere in Washington State, and had a lot of success there, building velocity and power in a lot of the guys. And just after one season, I got hired by the Houston Astros. And so I currently work as the rehab pitching coach for the Houston Astros. And now in my short coaching career, I've worked with athletes from age 5 T-ballers all the way up to multiple big leaguers. Now I share my knowledge of what took me from being a bad pitcher all the way to a professional pitching coach, working with young, driven, and curious pitchers. I've worked with over 100 college pitchers, over 80 professional pitchers, and 12 different big leaguers. And my remote clients have gained an average of 3.5 miles an hour in the first 4 months of training with me. My mission is to help pitchers play the game as long as they possibly can by teaching them how to bring actual value on the mound. Austin learned how to bring value to his college team when he was a freshman, came in throwing 84 miles an hour, trained the right way, and in 4 months was throwing 89 miles an hour. Evan is another example. Also was a junior college guy, was throwing about 87 and jumped to 92 in just 3 months, putting on a ton of muscle mass and a ton of strength. Braden went from throwing 89 to 94 in just 5 months. Sai was a high schooler running it up to 88. After 4 months of training, was getting up to 94 and getting some attention from professional scouts. Ethan had arm pain for multiple years straight, had to get elbow surgery, and came out of rehab throwing 5 miles an hour harder than he ever had in his life. Colin wasn't even a pitcher when he first started working with me. He was a shortstop, about to get cut, started pitching, learned how to pitch the right way, gained 9 miles an hour in just 4 months, and now still pitches in college to this day. Tyler was stuck at 88 for over a year, changed up a few things in his lifestyle and his training, and jumped all the way to 94. And Caden started working with me when he was having multiple different setbacks during his Tommy John rehab, went from 86 to 90, putting on a ton of weight, putting on a ton of strength, and moving more efficiently. Now, before I break down exactly how these guys are doing it, I need you to know that this is not just a quick fix or a magical set of drills. It's going to take time, it takes hard work, and it takes consistent effort. You will need to change your lifestyle and your training habits if you want to get the gains like those guys I just mentioned. If you want something that's going to magically bump you 5 miles an hour, you're not willing to put in a professional level of work, and you're not willing to change the way that you train and recover, this video is not for you. Go ahead and click off of it. Go back to doom scrolling on TikTok to try and find the magical drill you're looking for. But if you're willing to work your ass off for your goals, see the long-term vision of what quality training can do for you, and you want more for your baseball career, you're going to want to lock in. I'm going to show you exactly how to get drafted as a pitcher. So there are 5 major pillars of pitching dominance. This is at any level, but it's a lot more prevalent even at the highest levels. If you look at the best of the best in the major leagues, they embody these 5 pillars, and they have parts of their game designed to make them better at each of these. So the 5 things you need to be striving to get better at on a daily basis are mechanical efficiency, power output, your pitch arsenal, your command, and your strategy. In college, you can get away with only being good at 2 of these. If you want to get drafted, you need to be pretty elite at 3 or more of these, probably closer to 4 or 5 with how competitive the draft is nowadays. And if you want to stick in pro ball and stay there for a long time, you're going to need to be good at all 5 to a certain level. So let's break these down one by one. The first one being mechanical efficiency. What you probably do now to work on your mechanics is the cookie cutter drills that are given to you by your school coaches or random drills that you're finding on social media. You're doing the same routine every day when you go out to throw, whether that's your bands and your pivot pick plyos and then your catch play routine, but you don't understand why you do half of the things that you're doing. That's a problem because every pitcher is different physically and mentally and needs different things. And most coaches don't know what it actually takes to train at a professional level because they've never been around it, they've never seen it. You need mechanics that are actually going to transfer with you to the game mound. And most of the time, when you think you're making progress, you're really just wasting your time. But what professional pitchers are doing is getting objective data of how their body moves every single time that they pitch, whether that's through video or biomechanics telling them the exact angles of each of their joints. And they have specific drills and routines tailored towards those needs and what they need to work on. They have specific plans for their low days, medium, high days, game days, all of it. And at the end of the day, they have the best coaches in the world. They're not just learning from their science teacher who happens to coach baseball on the side. And so the gap between you and the professional pitchers is in the information and the education, the development systems, and the time and experience that they have. And how you can close that gap is by assessing your strengths and your weaknesses with objective data or an experienced coach, having a structured program individualized towards your movement preferences and needs, attack the program for a substantial period of time, and that doesn't mean 10 days, that means multiple months at a time to make the adaptations, and have a consistent, reliable feedback loop throughout that time in order to master those movements. That is how you're going to have a professional level delivery and start to get on track towards getting drafted. But none of that matters if you are a wet noodle and you weigh 140 pounds soaking wet. You have to be able to produce the amount of power that a professional athlete produces if you want to get the results that professional athletes do. What you're probably doing now with your power output systems is generic bodybuilding lifting routines, or you're doing 3x10 sets with medium weight and you're doing a upper body, lower body split, or a push pull split or something like that. For nutrition, you eat whenever you get hungry and whatever is fed to you at home or at a cafeteria. You are staying up late, playing video games, doing the things you like to do, and you're waking up when your alarm goes off, when you have early morning weights or school or the things you don't like to do. The problem with that is that your lifting routine is made for people who don't actually need to move athletically. If you've ever seen a video of a bodybuilder try to throw a baseball, you know exactly what I'm talking about. You may start to get bigger, but what you need to do is be able to produce more force and produce that force significantly faster. There's also a problem with your lifestyle at home. You're probably not giving your body the necessary fuel that it needs to train hard and recover. And at the end of the day, I hate to be the guy to say this, but you're going to eventually plateau or get hurt. And I know that because it's happened to me multiple times, and it took me multiple times to actually learn it. Now, what the pros do in their lifting routine is they have one that is designed for producing power in all three planes of motion. That's the frontal plane, the sagittal plane, and the transverse plane. The transverse plane is one that gets slept on all the time. That's basically power in the rotational plane. They're consistently pushing the limits of their body in the weight room. They have movements that are tailored to their specific mobility needs that are getting assessed by people that are a lot better than your science teacher. They are getting given specific diets to maximize their energy and their recovery, and they're maximizing their sleep because they know the tricks to get the best sleep quality to prepare them to perform on the field. So the gap between professional power output and your power output comes in the individualization of the program, the schedule and the consistency, and the lifestyle setup. How you can close that gap is by getting a lifting plan that's designed for your body to produce power, not just any person. Have a nutrition plan that's set to get you the right quantity and quality of food and hydration, and learn the recovery and sleep methods that get your body to adapt to hard training. That way, then you can just train hard, be disciplined at it, and follow that cycle for a long time, and you will gain a ton of power. And if you get good at mechanical efficiency and power output, you're probably going to throw very hard. But nowadays, there's so many guys that throw hard, that isn't even enough to get you drafted. The third pillar is your pitch arsenal. What actually makes you a pitcher and throwing nasty stuff? What you probably do right now to work on your pitch arsenal is throwing a 10 to 20 pitch flat ground at the end of your catch play every day. You're learning new grips from your teammates or from social media, and you're throwing the pitches that look nasty to you when you throw them and the ones that get you some outs when you throw them in the game. You don't actually understand how your pitches move or how they need to move. You're kind of just throwing what works in the moment. And the problem with that is that pro organizations are looking for stuff. That's their velo and pitch shapes combined of how nasty are your pitches. And you most likely don't know what elite stuff actually looks like unless you're being surrounded by high-level pitchers all the time. And the problem with just sharing grips with your teammates in college is that the grips that work for them are not necessarily going to work for you. Everybody's different based off their arm angle and the way their arm unwinds and their fingers, body size, stride length, all kinds of different things. You can't make meaningful adjustments without objective feedback, knowing how you move, knowing how your pitches move, and knowing what you need to work on. But the pros are getting objective data on their pitch movement every single time they toe the rubber. They have TrackMan and Hawkeye to see their pitch shapes after each of their games, and they're going to be surrounded by elite pitchers every day because they're in professional baseball. So the grips that they're learning, the cues that they're learning, those are better than the ones that you are learning, again, unless you're surrounded by 20 other professional pitchers every day. And on top of that, they have the best coaches in the world. It's not just a guy that got off of his shift at Ace Hardware to come and try and help you out. It's a guy whose whole career is built around making pitchers nasty. And so the gap between how you try to throw nasty pitches and how the professionals actually do it is through the knowledge of how their pitches actually move, the goals and the direction that they're getting, and the feedback loop that they're getting from other players and coaches. And how you can close that gap is by getting actual data on how your pitches move. So that's getting on a Rapsodo or a TrackMan unit, or even using newer apps that come out, like PitchLab is one that I like, that can get you your data much easier. You can also close the gap by studying what MLB level pitches actually look like. You can do that through free websites like Baseball Savant or Pitch Profiler. See where you're at, see where the big leaguers are at, and start to connect the dots. Then you need to get a coach that knows how to teach MLB level pitches, because it's one thing if you know what the pitch is supposed to look like and you know yours doesn't look like that. If you don't know how to make that happen, it's not just going to happen by accident. And then you can use the grips and the cues that you learn from that coach to consistently drill it out and get to your goals. If you master these three pillars, your mechanical efficiency, your power output, and your pitch arsenal, you're going to be very hard to hit, and you're likely going to be on some draft boards. But what's going to keep you on the field consistently and get you to shoot through the system when you do get to pro ball is your command. What you probably do right now to work on your command is just trying to hit your partner in the chest when you're playing catch. You're told by your coach to just throw strikes or pitch to contact because they don't know any better and they don't know how to actually get your command better. You're doing mechanical deep dives with your teammates and your coach that just got off his shift at Ace Hardware, trying to figure out why you're having command issues. And at the end of the day, you lack confidence in the biggest moments because you don't know if the ball is actually going to go where you want it to go. And the problem is that you don't actually have any idea how to train command because you've never been taught it. And that is why you can't commit to the pitches you're throwing. You're going to end up throwing way too many pitches when you step on the mound because you're going to get in deep counts and walk a ton of guys. And at the end of the day, even if you have good stuff, you're not going to have good performance on the field if you can't get in the zone. The pros, on the other hand, have the objective data of where each of their pitches goes, so they can look at each pitch type and see where they typically end up. And they have a very consistent daily routine to iron out their delivery, iron out their mental process, and figure out how to get their pitches more in zone. And again, they have the best resources in the world. They have the best coaches in the world. It's not just some part-time guy who's not a good baseball coach or a good history teacher trying to do both. It's a guy that is dedicated to make him into $1 million pitcher and working his tail off to do that. And so the gap between the way you train for command and the way a professional trains for command is in the objective progress data they're getting, the structured plan they have to actually improve, and the feedback they're getting from their coaches. So how you can close that gap is by measuring your command and tracking it over time, learning how to influence your command on a daily basis, optimizing your starting locations with each pitch type, so basically where you're looking to throw the pitch, and sharpening your mental approach so you can have the confidence on the mound. And if you can do these things, your command is going to get way better, you're going to be more reliable for your coaches, and you're going to perform much better on the field. But the fifth and final pillar is strategy. And most of you guys have no idea about anything about strategy, but it's vastly important. What you're probably doing right now is throwing way too many fastballs early in the count because you're throwing what your catcher or your coach puts down. You're making in-game decisions based off of subjective data of what's worked for you in the past and what you've noticed and what you like, or the patterns that your coach likes to do. And your approach is very hitter-focused instead of pitcher-focused. You're focusing on the hitter's weaknesses. How can I get this guy out? Instead of what are my strengths and how can I leverage those to get the most out of my arsenal? And the problem is that that approach is very predictable. If most pitchers are following that same approach, most hitters are seeing that very often. Your catcher and your coach probably doesn't fully understand your scouting report because he's not spending time studying that in the morning. He's working at Barnes & Noble trying to make a living so he can come coach you for fun in the afternoon. And so the strategies you've used have worked against low-level competition probably pretty often, but once you start to get to higher level competition, it's going to catch up to you and you're going to get hit and you're going to have to make the adjustments anyways. But a high-level plan works against low-level hitters and high-level hitters. So you need to have a plan that works against any level of hitter and that you can execute for multiple outings in a row because it's based on you. But in professional baseball, again, they have objective data on what pitches work best in which counts. They have daily meetings with their catchers and their coaches to strategize their game plans. They have data on what works at the professional level, and they're able to keep the processes as simple as possible so that they can go out on the field and just compete at a high level with confidence that their plan is good. The gap between your strategy and a professional strategy is once again in the objective data, it's in the strategy communication with the staff, and it's with high-level experience. And how you can close that gap is by learning when you can use which pitch types in your arsenal, creating a simple but structured attack plan that you can give to any catcher or coach and they can understand. Work with a coach that has professional level experience, and then execute that plan and adjust it as needed as you go throughout the season. So if you want to get drafted, these are all the ways that you can close the gap between you and professional baseball, right here. Go ahead and take a screenshot of this because I'm not going to go through all of them one by one again, but these are all the steps you need if you want to be a professional pitcher. The reality of the situation is, in order to play professional baseball, you have to take a job from a guy that's already in pro ball. And each organization has just 165 minor league players, and these players already have access to the best resources, the best coaching, tons of data, and the best programs. If you are not training the way that they are, you are falling behind and you're not going to be able to take somebody's job. You're on the clock. What you have that current professionals don't have is youth. Major league orgs value two things when they're looking at prospects. How good are you and how young are you? And the sooner you become good, the more valuable you become to them as an asset, which means they will throw more money at you. And so what I do is provide a shortcut, because it doesn't matter if you end up throwing 95 miles an hour if it takes you until you're 25 years old to do it. I know that from personal experience, and that's why I'm sitting here reading a PowerPoint to you instead of playing in the big leagues. There is immense value in improving at a younger age, and I want you to be able to skip all of the things that I did in my career that failed so that you can take that shortcut and get to where I got to faster than I did. Most guys don't get professional level training until after they get drafted, so there's a ton of pressure on them to perform quickly because they are aged and there's newer, younger guys knocking on the door every single year. So you need to honestly ask yourself this question: am I currently an MLB draft prospect? The answer to that question for 99% of you guys is no. And so if that answer is no, you need to change the trajectory of your career. The methods you've been using are not getting you where you need to go. And even if you're on the right track and you're making some progress, you're probably moving way too slow. The younger you can get good, the more valuable you become to these organizations. I want to work with you to get you on the right track and on the right timing. However, I only work with pitchers who want to get the most out of their career, are willing to put in the necessary work to get to their goals, are looking to improve now, and they understand that it takes time and consistent effort to get there. The Icebreaker Performance Program is a remote program that will assess the strengths and weaknesses in all aspects of your baseball career and your life, develop a plan that is tailored towards your individual needs, provide endless baseball education, give consistent quality feedback, track your progress daily, and surround you with other highly motivated pitchers. I know what it feels like to not know what to do, to not have a coach to talk to after an outing, to try out drills and not realize they're stupid until weeks later, and to fail miserably and never make it to my ultimate goals. Because I failed, you don't have to. I've wasted years of my career doing stuff that wasn't actually helping me, and now I know what will yield results and what is eyewash. If you want to avoid making the same mistakes I made, skip the thousands of hours trying to figure out what works for you, leverage other players' experiences and mistakes, make sure you do things right before it is too late, and get drafted as a pitcher, apply to train with me today.